welcome everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me make sure my settings are good. Okay, perfect. All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope everybody has a safe election day. Today is day 16. Perhaps the defense may be wrapping up today. Do we know that? Anybody know in chat? I saw somebody claim that. I think they were talking about, because I know at the end of yesterday, they had told the judge that they didn't have any more witnesses, but it sounds like clearly they did this morning. So we'll definitely recap as we always do. We'll recap part of yesterday because usually when I go live, they still have a few witnesses that we don't get to cover, or we just don't have all the information that they, the questions and stuff like that. And then I always like to, as always, this case is a unique case where it's not being filmed. There's no transcript, so we only have to go off journalist notes. Obviously, they make mistakes. They made one yesterday, a big oopsie, a big typo, claiming that the daughter was asked if she loved his father. And in one of the local news, they said no. Clearly, that was a typo, or they misheard the question. And then even Barbara McDonald even tweeted that out. So I thought, oh, shit, like, she said no, but then she retracted on that. So that's why I always like to go back from the day before a little bit, because there's always more stuff that not just one journalist can cover and write down. So before we get going, something I've been meaning to do these last couple lives. We always like to get back by featuring missing people. So today, before we get started, and then we got a lot to go over. We've got missing Liliana Gonzalez, missing out of Florida. She went missing on November 2nd. I know they've been asking for volunteers. She's just 15 years old, white Hispanic, brown eyes, 110 pounds. She's from Lighthouse Point, Florida. I don't think I've ever heard of Lighthouse Point. She was last seen wearing a black tube top, black shorts, stockings, and black boots. Is fit and curly, medium length, and blonde, black and purple hair. Says she was last seen around 3000 block and Northeast 48th Street in Lighthouse Point, Florida. If you have any information, you can call 954-942-8080. Once again, Liliana Gonzalez, missing out of Lighthouse Point, Florida, 15 years old, missing 3 days now. As always, thank you to my wonderful mods in here, doing an amazing job. We've been, it's usually something I don't go live every day, but of course is a case that we've covered and been interested in since back I started following it back in 2019, but I didn't start my channel until 2022, I think. And we kind of covered this case off and on throughout the years. And now it looks like the defense may be finishing
Abby
up.
Williams and Liberty German had made last-minute plans to go to the Monon High Bridge, which was supposed to be...
My ear is feeling better. Thank you guys. My God, I almost had to quit the show yesterday. I mean, I couldn't even think. It was just piercing every thought. Of course, my ear and nose canal are connected, so any cold air gets blown in there. Sometimes it can last just a few hours, or it'll knock me out for, days. So, feeling much better. So I can actually think, thank God. Leslie and Billy, good to see you. Neighbor down the street, thank you for your continued support. I hope you're doing well, staying warm. If you're out here in Utah, we're in a much higher elevation. We've already got snow in the mountains, which is typical. Now it's just when is it going to hit the valley? But it's weird here in Utah because sometimes we won't get snow at all until like Christmas time, and then we'll get snow almost in like May or even June. Obviously in the mountains, not really in the valley, but it's just because we're at such a high altitude. So, but the people that ski love that. Leslie says, much love, your neighbor down the road. I appreciate that. All right, let's get going here. We've got already about 300 people in here. God bless you guys. As always, I'll just do a 2-minute recap on the story, and then we'll kind of touch on some of the highlights from yesterday, and then we'll get into today. They called in Betsy Blair. Obviously, if some of you have seen my thumbnail, it makes me mad when, if you're going to call somebody a liar and then you continuously lie and be, hypocritical about it, it just makes me mad. They said Betsy Blair had seen this Mercury comet. That was such a big thing for the Franks motion and for the defense. And they literally call her up on the stand today, and we'll go over it. No mention of a Mercury comet. Not even close. Not even close. So we'll get into it, but no surprise there.
A teenage hangout with a historic trail and a really high old abandoned bridge. The two girls, who were best friends, just had a sleepover the night before and were excited when Libby's sister, Kelsey German, said she would drop them off as long as the two girls found a ride home, which they did. Although it was February, the temperature was nice for that day, and even though it was a Monday, they had school off that day. The two girls, Abby and Libby, would be dropped off just before 2 p.m., where they planned on only staying for a couple of hours. The two teens, Abby and Libby, would begin walking the 501 trail to the Monon High Bridge. As the two would approach the bridge, Libby, who had her iPhone, would take 2 pictures, one as they passed the first platform, and another which shows Abby looking down as she is crossing the scary, tall, gap-filled railroad tie. The girls didn't know it yet, but they were not alone. As a few hours would go by, the father of Libby, Derek German, would show up, but the two girls were not at the meetup spot. Thinking that the two teens just lost track of time, he would end up calling Libby's phone. The phone was ringing, but no one was answering. He would begin searching for the two teens, but when running into other people, no one had seen them. Eventually, the authorities would be called out, and this would lead to a search party looking for the two girls. But sadly, there was no sign of them on that first night of the 13th. With the search being called off late that night for safety reasons, it would be resumed early that next day. They brought in helicopters, divers, and many other resources to scour the area. But just around noon that day, they would soon discover a grisly scene. Authorities would discover the two girls across the river, and both had sadly been murdered.
Investigators solemnly identified the two bodies found in Carroll County as 13-year-olds Libby German and Abby Williams.
We would soon get multiple press conferences, including one of the most memorable statements by Superintendent Doug Carter.
Okay.
We know that this is about power to you.
Man, every time I see this,
and you want to know what we know.
It's still, every time I see that clip, it just brings me back to the days that I never thought we'd ever get answers to this case. I don't know how many times that interview has been played, obviously with everything else that comes with this case, the bridge guy video, guys down the hill. And it's just still so surreal thinking that we're finally here. The defense could be wrapping up or has wrapped up. I'm not sure. But I think either way, They're, just about done with their case. Again, I don't believe they have proven their case. That's just my opinion. I think they brought in some decent witnesses with the experts. I think, for the, what he was going through. Obviously, I've never been in that experience. I'm sure a lot of us probably have not. And I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what that would do to your mental health. I'm sure it would not be fun to be put in solitary confinement again, but at the same time, although people had issues with it, especially when you're at the same time, I mean, it was so weird, well, not weird, but so interesting that you had Richard Allen and then you had Brian Koberger. And, they're both being brought in the news. And you see Brian Koberger in court. He's all dressed up nice and fancy, looking healthy. And then you see the opposite with Richard Allen. He's chained up and then he looks worse. And so I'm sure that pulled on a lot of emotional strings. I don't blame people. But at the same time, they're trying to keep him alive. And I think, again, would he be alive if he was kept in county? It's possible, or it's possible. Obviously, we know that, people that are accused of this kind of crime, they don't take kindly to. And, who knows if he would be alive if he was kept in county, and made it to trial. Then it'd be a lose-lose situation because there'd be no justice for Abby and Libby. And, yeah. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Let me get caught up here. Okay, so this is day. So day 15. I think my speculation, I don't think it'll be innocent. I think it'll either be a hung jury or it'll be guilty. It sounds like there's probably one or two that may, I don't know, maybe they'll, if it's more one way than the other, maybe these other jurors can persuade the few that may feel differently. But again, obviously we're not there. We can only go for what people say. But I only see two outcomes. Again, that's just my speculation. I don't think it'll be innocent though. The questions that the jurors ask don't point, in my opinion, and others feel like that doesn't point towards the defense. Again, that's just opinion. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm just kind of trying to find my spot here. Okay, so all right, this is day 15. All right, so I think we left off with Hicks, and I think there was Mullins and Brad Weber brought back in, and we didn't go over their statements. So let me just kind of recap what they had yesterday. So they had Polly Westcott on, and I'll just play the clip from the news for her, just to kind of give their overall view. Then they had Baker play a couple more videos showing Alan, in obviously in some bad situations, banging his head, one of the videos, and then I guess the other one was the feces one. Then we got to Jamie Jones. This is where I kind of want to start with, Richard Allen's half-sister. Just a quick few questions. Obviously, they asked about the molestation. She said no. She said she loved Allen, and then I just want to make sure that we cover this, even though it was reported right here that the defense asked Richard Allen's daughter, do you love your father? And one of them said no. So I just wanted to make sure that she did say yes. That was misreported. So then we continue on. The one thing I thought was interesting is the prosecution brought up photos of Allen and what he looked like in 2017. I'd be curious to see what those look like. Did he? I mean, he's usually seen with short hair and some kind of, either his goatee is short or long. So I'd be kind of curious to know, like, is he still just kind of buzz cut, or obviously witnesses curly brown hair, which I do speculate and wonder if Bridge Guy did wear, like, maybe like a wig or something. Again, this guy was covered up, so I don't think it doesn't matter who you have as far as a witness. If this guy's like covered up and he's got a mask on, and you're only able to, like, ID this guy with this about a much other than his his stature, how are you going to ID anybody? I don't think there's going to be a single witness and go and ID somebody in court and say, hey, that's Bridge Guy. If this guy's like completely covered up head to toe. Then the other interesting thing I think shows, they asked if the daughter had visited the Monon Bridge with her father. She said yes. I think she said she was asked, she did go out there a couple times with her father. She said she was scared of the bridge, not of her father. But I think that definitely, in my opinion, that shows that this guy is clearly familiar with the Monon High Bridge. For those who are not as familiar with this case,
At 1:56 p.m.
One of the things is that the locals say is that, like, this place is kind of an area that usually just the locals know. And of course, Richard Allen lives 5 minutes away, and he has a photo album just filled with pictures from the Monon High Bridge. So things that were speculated long before Richard Allen was arrested, that this guy likely knew this area and knew that where the girls were going to be cut off was a dead end. Even though it's not technically a dead end, it's private property. And typically you would walk across the bridge and then you would just come back, because technically you would then, if you continued on, you'd be on private property. And these people that live there, that own the property, they have obviously, I think some have cameras, or they've obviously kicked off people before. So yeah, I think that kind of shows that he has his familiarity with the area. And then we had Shelby Hicks. She showed up. Now, she is, at the time, she was the girlfriend to Daniel Parsons. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Also known as DP. Obviously speculated highly back in the day about potentially being Bridge Guy. So that was the couple, Shelby and Daniel. They got there, she said, around 2:30, but they first went towards the Freedom Bridge first, and then they went to the High Bridge. So by the time they got there, in the prosecution's timeline, they would have been already, basically, they would be dead. So, I think the defense wants to call them and show, well, hey, did you hear anything at the bridge? Well, obviously they wouldn't, because, the girls, the phone stopped moving at 2:32. These girls, they didn't even get to the bridge until like 3 p.m. or later. So clearly, sadly, these girls, they wouldn't hear screams, because according to the prosecution's timeline, they'd be dead. They also saw an older gentleman with a camera. That was McCain. Then they left. So then we continue on. Then they brought in Steve Mullen. They wanted to... well, let me just play this.
She says she met with law enforcement twice. First on Feb 14, 2017, and then again in March of 2017.
It does.
She says the police
from
never
the
took her
beginning.
phone to extract data. At 2:23 p.m., prosecution attorney Stacy Diener begins her cross-examination. Hicks says her cellular provider in 2017 was certified. Baldwin asks how many people owned similar hatchback models in Carroll County or surrounding areas in 2017. Mullen says he does not know. Baldwin says Mullen created a log of missing interviews. He said,
So the defense wanted to go at Mullen again. The car thing, I'm not 100% on what they were trying to do there. I mean, they were probably trying to show that there may be more cars in the surrounding areas that people may have owned that are like Richard Allen's or similar to. But then the other thing is that they were trying to nab him on the log of the interviews that got overwritten or lost, however you want to claim it. And at the time he did, in one deposition, he said, yeah, there's no log. But since they had interviewed him in a deposition, he had found that log since then. So basically they were trying to call him a liar, but he says, well, technically no, because at the time we didn't have that log. But since then we have found it. So that really didn't go anywhere.
Says on March 18th,
in my opinion,
that Mullins did not say that at the hearings in March. Baldwin raises his voice, then apologizes to the judge. Mullen looks at the transcript from the March hearing. He admits that at the time, there was no log. He tells the jury that there is a log in the filing cabinets from early on, and says he has gone through the cabinet and found it since he testified in March. Baldwin then asks about Libby's phone. McClelland asks for a sidebar. Baldwin says Dr. Walla was a fan of Delphi sites, and asks if it would be important to find out if a van was discovered.
This is AI, so if it... Obviously it's Delphi, but it calls it Delphi.
Just on social media. Mullen says he did not look. Baldwin says there were many mentions of a van on social media.
I'm sorry, but that's such horseshit. I mean, everything has been speculated to death, but there's no mention of Brad Weber and a van, like those two together. There's mention of a van back in the day, the picture of Abby on the bridge, the first one that I can remember, and I went back and researched, the only one that I know of that any van was ever mentioned was somebody thought there was a van in the back of the picture with Abby on the bridge, and of course it's not. And then these defense people want to say that, oh yeah, we've been talking about vans, and and I think that's such horseshit. I'm sorry, but definitely not with Weber, and certainly. People, when discussing Weber, we always thought he got home at 3:30. So there's no way that she would know about this white van connected with Brad Weber, and then him coming home at the time he did. That's just my opinion. But the van, people talking about vans. I mean, I literally have hundreds of videos on Delphi. I've never talked about a van once. I've been through the Reddit. I haven't deep dived every single thing on Reddit. I came in 2019. There's definitely OGs in this case. But a van, I think that's such horseshit. Just in my opinion. Pardon my French.
Says Mullen doesn't know what Wallace said when she was taking care of Allen. At 2:45 p.m., the jury asked questions of Mullen. Why would anyone discuss a van prior to Allen's confession? Mullen says, that's why we looked into this. That was the first we heard of it. Baldwin asks Mullen if they had ever heard of a white van 30 minutes outside of Delphi with a suspicious thin man asking kids if they wanted candy.
Baldwin actually went that far as to bring up some random white van 30 minutes outside of Delphi with a suspicious thin man asking kids if they wanted candy. Like, how's that even connected with Delphi? If it's 30 minutes outside of Delphi and he's handing, it's so ridiculous to mention something like this that clearly has nothing to do with the case. Other than just bringing up a white van, and I don't know.
Mullen says,
to me, that just shows desperate, in my opinion. You may feel differently,
he does
but
not
I just
recall.
think that's just ridiculous.
At 2:48 p.m., the defense called Brad Weber. The reporter notes Weber seems extremely disheveled. Baldwin asks him why he was upset when they talked before. Weber says, "I was upset because you were trying to tell me what I did when I got off work."
Now, reportedly, they said when Weber was on the first time, when the prosecution called him, when he was crossed by defense, he got upset. But they said today, according to the mirror sheet, that he actually was very calm majority of the interviews. So when they say extremely disheveled or whatever, I don't know. I've heard conflicting reports on that for the most part, everything was concise. They basically said that all they got around to is basically talking about ATM machines, and I think a lot of people now know how to run an ATM machine. I think that's what we learned from Brad Weber's testimony from the defense. They tried to say that he lied about when he got home and that he was going to do ATM machines. Come to find out, he was interviewed multiple times. They came to his house, so he came home after work. He punched out at 2:02, got home between 2:25 and 2:35, if you want to put it like a 10-minute window. And then he went and took a nap, and a knock on the door at 4 or 5 p.m., something like that. So, if this guy was bridge guy, because something happened yesterday that just makes me so sick to my stomach. It doesn't surprise me. It comes from the defense side of some of these people. Not to say that there hasn't been some crazy stuff on either side. I don't want to say, but there's something that just happened. I feel is so disgusting to Brad Weber yesterday, and I have to point it out because it just makes me sick to my stomach. But anyway, they tried to slip him up because he apparently, most of his interviews, he had done multiple interviews, and he said he came straight home. There was one where a different agency called him up, apparently, from what I understand, and it wasn't an in-person interview. It was over the phone, if I understand correctly. And maybe there was miscommunication but something he mentioned ATM machines is basically what I got out of it. But there was literally transcripts before these interviews for him saying he came straight home. So if he might have had a later interview days later where he might have mentioned something else and maybe it got twisted, or, I don't know, but that sounds like what it was. He was very concise, and then we basically learned about how
Baldwin
to run
handed
an
him a
ATM
transcript from an FBI interview Weber did in Feb 2017. Weber tells the jury he went on a 3-day trip to Arizona and got back the Sunday before the girls died.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, criminal.
Baldwin asks him about his ATM machine
disgusting.
business. Weber says he makes money off them through surcharges. He doesn't know how many he had in 2017. He says he had 30 at one point and has 15 now. Weber tells the jury he attended to his ATM.
So obviously, it would take him a long time because it sounds like he's got to do stuff because he explains this. Obviously, we're going to listen to part of it, but he explains the process of how he does it. He's either got to change, obviously, put more cash in it, or he's got to change, because when you go to the ATM, not people now do that because we just use cards, but usually the two things he had to change was obviously fill up the cash, and or when you get your cash, you get a receipt. And so obviously you'd have to change the receipt thing. And usually he has to do that like in a week in advance because he's got to order the money or whatever. And so clearly this is something that's got to be timed out. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to go, unless he's got the materials, I guess. But anyway, that's kind of basically what we learn from this.
Machines daily. Says he checks how much money they have and gets money from the bank. He says he doesn't know what bank he used in 2017. He thinks it was Regions Bank. Weber says his ATMs are at gas stations, taverns, restaurants, etc. He said he used a black Subaru to drive to service his ATMs. He says he uses Regions Bank now, but not always the same branch. He says on the day of the murders, he went straight home from his other job at the Subaru plant. Weber tells the jury that nobody from law enforcement asked him to go to a police station this past August, that they asked him to go to a different location. He says, it could have been Steve Mullen that called. He says, only time I used my van was when I was pulling a trailer. Weber says he took a nap when he got home after work on February 13, 2017. Got up around 5 p.m.
I don't know why I'm sorry to point this out. I don't know why the AI says it as Febby, even though it's just Feb. I don't know where it gets the extra E. The AI is pretty amazing. Fills in when I can't record all this and listen. It's just way too much I could do in one day. So it's nice to have this AI filling in. But I find it interesting how it gets Febby from just FEB. Anyway. So yeah, he says, on the stand under oath, he went home because obviously this conflicts. This throws the defense's theory of them being abducted, because if a guy's coming home in a van and they're supposedly, the bridge guy, according to defense, if there's, bridge guy and then somebody with a vehicle on that, on the access road, private drive, whatever you want to call it, or Weber's, secondary private driveway or whatever. Obviously, if Weber's coming home, he would have ran into the vehicle. He would have seen these guys being abducted. So obviously, defense people are not happy. They're going to claim he's a liar, even though there's multiple, according to what they say, there's multiple interviews where he said, that he came home after work. I mean, there's literally, they have timestamps of when he got off of work. And then apparently there was one interview where maybe it was misconstrued on what he was doing on what day. And that sounds like easily what happened. So anyway.
When someone knocked on the door, Baldwin asks, do trespassers come onto your property? Weber says yes. Weber says he did not hear any screaming on that day. He says he had a home in Lafayette in 2017 and owns a trailer. Weber tells the jury he gave law enforcement permission to go inside his house, but it was not on February 13, 2017. He says his van was in the grass, and the Subaru was in the driveway. Baldwin hands him a photo of his garage from Feb. 19, 2017. McClelland objects to the photo. Judge Gull admits the photo. McClelland calls for a sidebar. At 3:20 p.m., McClelland began his cross-examination. Weber says law enforcement stopped him on his way home a few times, probably on Feb. 17, 2017. He says someone looked through his property on Feb. 13. He confirms he talked to law enforcement on Feb. 17. He said he went straight home from work on Feb. 13, 2017. At 3:26 p.m., the jury asked Weber questions. Do you know if the ATMs would have photo or video of servicing? Weber says, not the actual ATMs, but some of the locations.
No worries,
how far
KLC.
in advance would you have to order cash
KCL,
for ATMs?
Sorry.
Weber says getting cash isn't a problem, but a week in advance. What is the process to clock out of work? Weber says turnstile.
And so for anybody that's not familiar with turnstile, so it sounds like, so I worked at the post office for many years, and they have a turnstile type thing. Obviously, anybody from like New York, where you go through the turnstiles, basically. But what you do is you have a badge, and before those things will unlock, obviously you have to put on your badge on the the card reader or whatever. And then obviously that's, each time you're doing that, that's either you're clocking in or clocking out. And so, and then obviously then the turnstile unlocks and lets one person through. With post office, and I'm sure it was probably with Subaru, but I know with post office, especially since it's a government job, if I were to ever, let's say someone forgot their ID card or lost it, and it has happened, if I were ever to use that for somebody else and let them, you would get fired. And people have gotten fired over it. It's kind of terrible that it's happened before. Anyway, just want to explain if anybody didn't know what a turnstile is. So it's very, it isn't just like, oh, I'm just writing my 202. This is very accurate. I wouldn't be surprised they have cameras in these areas as well.
What driveway do you use at home? Weber says, driveway under the Monon High Bridge. Do you drive under the bridge? Would you have taken that round on Feb 13, 2017? Weber says yes. Do you typically go home before servicing your ATMs? Weber says no. The defense says they have no more questions for today. The jury has left the courtroom. They say they had planned to have former state trooper Kevin Murphy testify, and that he would have said that Incident Command.
Oh, are they? Yeah, that's what I figured.
There were more than one person involved in the investigation. The prosecution objected to that testimony. After the jury has left the courtroom, Baldwin says he has an offer of proof for third-party suspects. He asks, if Allen had asked police if my spit was on one of the girls. Judge Gull tells the defense.
And I love how they misconstrued this in the Franks report. They changed up how he worded it, speaking of Elvis Fields. But again, none of these guys can be linked to the actual bridge that day. That's why Gold denies this every single time, for the 1,000th time, according to Judge Gull. It does feel like that as they keep trying to bring this Odinist theory in. They can't get one person there. Their main guy, BH, is literally, he's got a better alibi than Richard Allen. He's actually at work, clocked in. Your other guy, EF, who they're talking about DNA, was getting in a DNA swab. And of course, he's got the mentality of, teenager. And so, he's asking them after he's getting swabbed, like, well, if my DNA was found on the girls, could I have an explanation for that? Obviously, the guy's got, a disability. Yet these guys, a guy with a disability, up to 5 people, one including a disability, none of them turned on the other, which happens, we've seen, many times. And they got away with this for 5.5 years or whatever, or more now. I guess it's continuing if they were the ones that have done this, and they've gotten away with it. Yet they haven't done another sacrifice. I mean, aren't they due for another sacrifice?
We've had this discussion 1,000 times.
I'm sorry,
you have ridiculous. No evidence to tie these people to the crime. Baldwin says, I believe there is more than a nexus.
There's not.
Report about Richard Allen's mental state. And we want to show you.
Okay, so that was the end of yesterday. One thing I just want to mention that it makes me so sick that people do this at courtrooms. I understand people being on either side or on the fence. Everybody has the right to their opinions. But people go into the courthouse, standing outside. Now, I get it if you're like protesting, hey, I'm with you with the transparency thing. I think most of us probably agree, no matter on which side we're on. Hey, I'm all down for transparency. The one thing, it's weird. It's like I smell like a fire. It's weird. Anyway, I might have to check something. It might just be because my heater came on, but I might have to just look for a second. But Let me play this for a minute and just check. I'm a little
February
worried. Like, I
2017.
smell like a
And they
fire.
asked, is this
really
a fair
weird.
representation of what your dad looked like at the time? What about this one? What about this one? What about this one? And she said, well, yeah. But the defense said, do you know when these were taken? What about this one? Do you know when this one was taken? And she couldn't really say, right? These were from years ago. But again, the state said, is this a fair representation of what your father looked like at the time the girls went missing? To which she nodded.
Yes.
I think there was a little confusion. She was like, well, yeah, that's what my dad looked like. But again, I don't know when those photos were taken.
Right. And let's talk about why,
Yeah.
specifically, why those questions about, did your brother ever molest you? And that ties in directly to the testimony that Dr. Walla gave about the confession that Richard Allen made.
Okay, no fire, but it must be outside. I've got my window cracked, so it must be something outside that's kind of flowing in. That kind of scared me because it does. It smells like something's burning. Anyway, the one thing I just want to say is, I'm sorry to
her.
So
while
obviously
it
Brad Weber was called
very
back.
well may have been.
Do you focus here was
Then we'll get into
Let's talk
today.
about that timeline
Here's
a
Brad
little bit.
Weber.
And this-
Apparently, at some point, a certain YouTuber, Truth and Transparency, I'm just going to go ahead and call them out. Apparently, now I wasn't there, but I heard a secondhand report that, they were out there because I think they were protesting or whatever, which I'm totally, on board with the protesting. But to then, I understand, obviously this is probably a journalist filming Brad Weber, but to actually yell at him or say stuff like, about like basically claiming that he's, the killer and stuff is so effing disgusting. It just, I have no words for it. It's just despicable. That someone would do that, around these, it's a courthouse. There's a trial going on, and it's about two girls that were murdered. And you have people outside the courtroom, and you have somebody who is just unfortunately has property where two girls were murdered. He comes home. Then of course he throws a wrench in the defense's kind of theory, blows that up. So they're so they think it's funny to call this person, certain names. I'm not going to repeat because I don't know exactly what was said. I've heard what was referenced, but it was more or less referencing that, he may be, BG or part of it, more or less. And they thought it was funny. Another YouTuber who's been out there, who's been allegedly kicked out, was talking about it on his channel. And I've heard it from another source. Again, I wasn't there, so I just want to say that. But apparently that's what they said, and he thought it was funny. So I'm assuming it happened because they were supposedly standing next to each other. Again, maybe it didn't happen. I don't know, but I think that pisses me off. It wouldn't surprise me because, again, Weber kind of blows up everything, And then, of course, the van, all of a sudden, he comes in with the van theory. Or not the van theory, but he comes in, he's got the van, that supports the van confession. Now all of a sudden, everybody was talking about a van. I've never talked about a van once, and I have over 100 videos on Delphi. Never have talked about a van once. Not to say, everything under the sun has been speculated. Holy Christ, but, sorry. But anyway, I just, and you can see, you'll notice in one of the shots, you can see he's like, oh shit, I'm going to like dip out. So I'm assuming,
one of the things that he mentioned is,
but anyway, that's
he
what I
told the
heard.
girls to go down the hill, and then he planned to sexually assault them, but he didn't follow through with that because he saw a van that scared him and changed his plans. And the state called Brad Weber. They put together this timeline to tell the jury that we think that van that scared Richard Allen, again, crucial people.
Did she really fight for Chris Watts? Oh, man. Anyway, all right, let's get to day 16. But, that's just, again, I understand out there, protesting. That's your right. That's our God-given right. I am all for that. but to, say stuff like that as people are coming out. And then in the same live show that this guy's talking about, saying that, oh, people are talking about Kathy Allen and they're just the worst people and they should, go to hell. And then in that same live show, he's talking about how they're, bagging on Weber as he's coming out and think that's funny. And it's like, you're nuts, man. You're clearly a child. I mean, if you can't respect a courtroom or even outside the courtroom, it doesn't matter what, where you got kicked out, inside or out. If you're on the property near a courthouse, I mean, clearly there should be, respect for, what's going on. Just blows my mind. Blows my mind. So anyway, remember that Mercury comment that, was Liggett, what was it, Liggett? Remember, I guess Liggett lied about a bunch of things, but the defense wouldn't lie, would they? Right? Let's look at what the defense said, right? Because, of course, they would never lie, right? Only law enforcement. Now, of course, they would lie to you if they're in during an interrogation. That is just something that is part of their toolkit that they can do. But let's look at the many checks that the defense has bounced. So day 16, here we go. Betsy Blair, first witness, called by the defense. Remember this? They talked about it in Frank's motion, made a big deal about it. Oh, let's read this. Betsy Blair arrived at 146. Betsy Blair had parked her vehicle in a different location. Defense calls the Mears parking lot. When she left the Monon Trail, she pulled out of the Mears parking lot. She headed west, north. That's true. All of that so far, spot on. She was spotted on the Hoover's Harv store at 2:14. So she's, she's caught on camera. Then she passes the, obviously, the old CPS lot, right? And Betsy Blair would pass the old CPS lot at 2:15, obviously a minute after she's caught on camera. Then they go, remember that Liggett has admitted, sorry, and I have to go down here. Again, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And again, I hope at the end of the day, we do get some kind of stuff released so people can get, come to their conclusion, with the evidence, because obviously we can only go off what people are saying. But, oh yeah, Liggett under oath at 2:15, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would be parked at the CPS building while he, Richard Allen, was abducting and murdering the girls, which so far they have not disproven. However, at 2:15, when Betsy Blair passed the old CPS building, she did not, let me repeat that, did not see a black Ford Focus parked at the CPS lot. The car that Betsy Blair observed she passed looked nothing like a black Ford Focus. According to Liggett's own report, Betsy Blair observed one car parked in the CPS lot at 2:15. That car resembled a 1965 Ford Comet, one that looked like her father once owned. The shape had sharper angles. Again, to whom did Betsy Blair provide their description of a 1964 Comet looking, actually it's Mercury, but she said Ford apparently. Then to Liggett himself, and then continues to say that Liggett lied to them. So let's see what she says today. And she also drew a picture, which that part's true as well. But we're going to find out what that car, would it surprise you that it's nothing close to a Ford Comet or a Mercury Comet? Or close to that year. Presence of the... But again, it's okay to, call other people liars, and lie yourself. And then this came from Bob Mata, good old Bob Mata. Let's see what he tweeted out today. Defense has called 3 witnesses this morning. False confession expert. That just sounds so ridiculous. Maybe there is false confession experts. I don't know. I'll have to Google this. I would really like to know. Is there really false confession expert? Now, is he probably like a psychologist or something? And he's an expert in that? Probably. Is he a false confession expert? I don't know. Maybe there is. I would love to find out. I can't wait to Google this because it would not surprise me if there's not. Betsy Blair. Oh, he continues to say, who confirmed she saw... Oh, wait. No vehicle parked at the old CPS building. Wait, what? Betsy Blair. This comes from Bob Mata today in his tweet. Betsy Blair, who confirmed she saw no vehicle parked at the old CPS building. Wait, what happened to the comment? Where'd that thing go? And then a defense expert for the firearms, yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay. So I read this first thinking like, okay, so they called her back and she's going to say she saw no vehicle, which I'm like, oh, okay, interesting.
Richard Allen is wearing a baby...
So let's see what she said today. My God, these guys are so all over the place. It's so ridiculous. I'm sorry. So here, let's see what Richard Allen's, looks like he's wearing his baby blue shirt, khakis, glasses on his head.
Blue shirt, khakis, and glasses on his head. When Special Judge Frances Gull, she shared how the prosecution filed a motion of limine to prevent Dr. Stuart Gracian from testifying for the defense. Defense attorney Brad Rozzi said the state has known about this for a month. Gull said she trusts the witness has been debriefed and will comply with evidentiary rules.
And I mean, it's happened for a long time, and it makes, because she's, considered a YouTuber, and of course, people that do that kind of stuff then put a bad name for YouTubers, and of course, there's always going to be bad apples in any field, whatever, that's just life, but it's so disgusting. And then the person that she's, was with, this guy doing a live, and, half of his live shows like, oh, how dare you talk about Kathy Allen? Of course, I've never said anything bad about Kathy Allen, but, I guess some other people may have. I don't know. And then to turn around minutes later and claim what happened with Brad Weber and think that's the funniest thing ever. And not to, realize the hypocrisy of it just blows my mind. All right, so let's listen to what Betsy Blair had to say.
If he steps over the line, we'll be having an argument. Without the presence of the jury, Gull said. The jury entered the courtroom. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin called Betsy Blair to the stand, who said she saw a car in the CPS parking lot on February 13, 2017.
Wait, she saw a car? I thought Bob Mott had just tweeted this out. Wait, what? I'm sorry, I'm not to just kind of, but Defense Diaries, this is tweeted out today. Let's see, November 5th, 8:22 a.m. Yeah, that's today. Betsy Blair confirmed she saw no vehicle parked. I guess they didn't get their story straight.
And also went to the trails twice that day. Blair said the second time she went to the trail was around 1:45 p.m. and left around 2:15 p.m.
So
in the
remember,
old CPS lot.
I think she went there 3 times that day. Was it 3 times, right? And she does these, these loops, as she calls them. It's more like making a star, because you can't really loop on the trails, but it's like kind of making like a, I guess kind of a star type thing. But let's see what she describes at the old CPS lot as she was leaving at, she's seen at 2:14, and then at 2:15 she would be passing the thing. The old CPS
One
lot.
vehicle near the trail, but it was not parking how other people park. Blair said the vehicle was backed into the area, close to the building.
Backed in. Everybody else, all the other witnesses in the probable cause affidavit, you know what they said? All of them match. Backed in.
Blair described the vehicle as a 4-door sedan that wasn't brightly colored.
Oh, wait, whoa. wasn't brightly colored. Now, apparently, so I have the other channel's journalism, and they say that she actually went into certain colors, that it wasn't like red or yellow or something like that. So basically, more or less, she says that she saw something that was more or less possibly dark, can't say for sure black, that looked like a four-door sedan, but we'll show what she likely had seen.
During cross-examination, a prosecuting attorney said Blair talked to police on February 17,
My mods are amazing.
2017,
God bless you, mods.
and said she described the car as closer to the building, angled and backed in. Blair confirmed she was certain the car she saw was at the CPS building. A juror asked Blair if she thought the car could have belonged to someone working at the CPS building, but Blair said the building looked abandoned, but nobody checked to see if anyone worked there.
Obviously, it was abandoned. It was abandoned a long time ago. I mean, I don't know, long time ago, but clearly it had been abandoned for a while. We'll show some pictures of it. Remind people of what that area looked like. So, this is Richard Allen's, not the exact vehicle, but 2016 SE. Notice, so I got this. Notice how it's got those special rims. Remember, which I believe could be stock rims to the S 2016 Ford Focus SE. I could be wrong, but it's interesting when you do look this up. You do see these particular rims on them. Remember, that's one thing that stuck out. But then guess what happens when you back in a vehicle that's got a bunch of brush and you can't really see the back that well? Oh gosh. That hatchback kind of looks like a sedan now, right? So there's hatchback and sedan. Sedan, the difference between a sedan and hatchback, for anybody that doesn't know, they're more or less the same thing, 4 doors. Not always, but, typically 4-door. The difference really is one, the trunk is connected to the vehicle. There's no separation. In a sedan, the trunk is separate to, the main interior. So hatchback is connected. So most SUVs or all SUVs, everything's connected. There's no, gap or anything. Whereas a sedan, usually the trunk is what they would call separate, right? So anyway, if you were to back that up just a little bit, you wouldn't be able to see the back. You would see. So Lily says, and has special rims. Yeah, I noticed that when I was looking these up, that it was common to see these special rims. And I thought it was funny because, they're trying to argue that, it could have just been, even though that, an SC is very unique, is it possible that they saw other Ford Focuses that are, that somebody else could have owned that was in the, like that. But I think it's funny because, the SE is the one with the stock rims that I believe are stock rims like these. Anyway, I digress. Again, no Mercury comment. For those remember.
Defense then called Betsy Blair.
So I guess, I'm sure nobody's going to, bring that up that, that they were calling Liggett a liar. And there's this, and God, people were going nuts over that car, and nothing.
Witness who told police she saw a bridge guy. Blair said the prosecution did not ask her what car she was driving on February 13, 2017, earlier in the trial.
Yeah, I mean, they're really...
She testified that she went to the trails near the Monon High Bridge on February 13, 2017, and then left after a while. She returned to the trails at 1:45 p.m.
So this is from the other channel's journal blog. They had a little bit more different details, so I just wanted to play, so most of this is similar, but there's a few different wording, few statements that weren't in the other one, so I just wanted to get their point of view.
And left for good at 2:15 p.m. Blair told the court she left Mears entrance and turned left.
I got to turn down my heat.
She saw one car in the CPS
turn down
lot.
my heat.
It had been backed into a parking spot, and its front was pointing toward the county road. She said the car was not a bright color, like red or yellow. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin asked Blair if it was not a black car. She said she didn't recall. Baldwin handed Blair a statement she made on April 2nd, 2019.
In a furnace.
In the statement, she says the car could not have been black. Blair said she only saw the side of the car and couldn't tell if it was a hatchback, adding that she even drew the profile of the car for police. The jury was then shown a defense exhibit, Blair's drawing of the car. The defense ended its questioning, and cross-examination began at 9:30 a.m. Blair told the prosecution that she told police on February 13, 2017, about the car that she saw in the CPS lot.
Yeah, no, I agree with Robert here. Yeah, Bob Mona said no vehicle. That's a lie. Yeah, that's what I'm pointing out. I don't know who blocked that. I agree. But yeah, if we cannot mention the channel I mentioned earlier, I know it is. I know that probably gets people upset. And probably, I'm sure she's done a lot of other stuff. But yeah, we'll move on from that. But I just had to mention that because it's just, yeah.
Prosecutor Stacy Diener said she told Blair that a similar vehicle had been seen around the same time, parked off the road.
So the definition, so I just wanted to give a definition between a hatchback and sedan, because I did want to look that up, for anybody that was wondering. And it really, the definition, when you look up, is that this trunk is separate from the vehicle. A sedan's trunk is separate from the vehicle, and obviously the hatchback is connected, which obviously makes
and
sense.
asked Blair if that changed her recollection. Blair said that she felt certain about the car she saw. When cross-examination
yeah, so I get what you're saying. Yeah, so a hatchback is a sedan with a hatch on it. Yeah, technically, yeah, when you break it down like that, Junior. Yeah.
Q1. Is it possible the car at CPS belonged to someone inside? A. The building was abandoned. Q2. Do you know if anyone checked to see if the car belonged to an employee? A. I don't know. The defense's next witness is Dr. Stuart Gratian, who is a psychiatrist and went to Harvard Medical School. Gratian specializes in solitary confinement, false memories, and false confessions.
So he's a psychiatrist, but he's not a false confession. I mean, is there such thing as a false confession expert? I'm just curious. Maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe that's false. Maybe someone can enlighten me. False confession expert. I guess there is. Interesting. I am a little surprised at that. Anyway, continuing on.
Gratian said,
we'll talk about the false confessions because I have a huge issue with the false confessions that have been brought up.
it's important to understand the mental state in cases like this. Gratian said he understands Alan made incriminating statements and wanted to know if Alan's mental health contributed to that. Gratian listened to calls from prison and read transcripts from other inmates. When discussing solitary confinement, Gratian said people held like this can become confused, disoriented, and extremely lonely, since there is minimal opportunities for stimulation.
I don't disagree one bit. I'm sure that's true.
Gratian said he never visited Alan's cell, but saw video provided by the defense. Gratian said the United Nations classifies torture in solitary confinement as more than 15 days. Rozzi asked Gratian what causes delirium, which Rozzi responded with sepsis, heart failure, and lack of external stimulation. When Rozzi asked Gratian if he noticed symptoms of delirium on Alan's phone calls to other people, Gratian said, "Absolutely yes." Gratian said delirium can also lead to developing false memories, such as starting to believe and picture things that didn't happen.
So I would like to know what's an example, though, in these phone calls that provide that he was delirious or delirium, whatever, where he's making up false memories, right? Where, a false confession is, I pushed those girls off the bridge. They claim, so far, they're false confessions. The two biggest examples, Satan killed the girls. That's not a confession. That's an expression. So that's one of their examples for a false confession. Satan killed the girls. That's an expression. I killed my wife and kids. That has nothing to do with murder. But that's considered a false confession. That's an expression. So I guess expressions are now considered false confessions from my understanding. I think the only one is the girls being shot in the back, but that came from an inmate who probably heard it from another inmate, and the story got twisted. Or it's possible maybe one of the few, maybe the one and only false confession so far. But again, so far, Satan killed the girls. I killed my wife and kids. And then I guess S.A. and I guess you could, but that has nothing to do with the murders either. So that's not even a false confession. I guess but not towards the murders. He's not on trial for, what he may or may not did to, these other people that were brought up. So far these false confessions, in my opinion,
Your memory can
are
shift
ridiculous.
over time, Gracian said, noting this was perfectly consistent with Alan's symptoms. During
Brandon,
cross-examination, a prosecuting
Juror's
attorney
questions
asked
for
Gracian
Betsy.
if he was aware of prison rules on safekeeping, punishment, and safety protocols, which Gracian said yes, but he wasn't an expert on those. A juror asked Gracian if psychotic behavior can go back to normal after the person is removed from the situation, which Gracian responded, generally, yes. A juror also asked Gracian if he believes someone described as normal can become psychotic after 6 months, which Gracian responded, absolutely. I've seen it happen. The defense's next witness is Dr.
So thank you, Brandon. Question for juror for Betsy. That's concerning. I'm not sure, because didn't they just ask 2 questions? Obviously, they're not familiar with the CPS building. Remember, they were they're pulled from a different county. So I don't know if anyone's actually local or knows the Monon High Bridge. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about. But yeah, that is a little interesting. They didn't explain that CPS was abandoned. I'm sure it's been mentioned before. Maybe they just didn't understand that. But that's not part of the murder, though. How is that a false confession? I mean, towards the murders, though. I don't understand that. I disagree. I mean, I would say I guess you could say it's a false confession, but that's not a false confession towards the murders, like what we're talking about. Satan killed the girls, that's an expression. Unless you want to consider that's a false confession, he thinks Satan killed the girls. I would say a false confession would be, I pushed the girls off the bridge. I shot them in the back. I think that's probably the only one that they could have legs to stand on. That's my opinion. I'm not a psychologist. Certainly no false confession expert. But again, where are details that are all screwed up that aren't really part of what happened? We haven't seen that, really. Other than the girls being shot in the back, it's only one that I can think of. Yes, for anybody that does not think him changing his timeline, he said 1:30 to 3:30, the day after, and then 5.5 years later, he's got a better memory about what time he was there. My ass. And of course, I've shown people that timeline. It does not fit, noon to 1:30. I know, I could go over that. So next defense expert, is this the bullet one? Which I think is great. I think the bullet was never, in my opinion, I wasn't really excited about the bullet because it wasn't fired. I still think it still holds weight because, it's the same ammunition that was found that Alan had. I think at the very least they could say it was cycled through a 6-hour. And it's obviously it's a 40 cal bullet, same caliber that Alan had. So at the very least, I think it has a little weight. I don't think, obviously unless I was there in the jury and actually saw like what this expert shown.
Aaron Warren, who lives near
my
Memphis,
opinion on that.
Tennessee, and owns a business dealing with crime scene reconstruction, and worked with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations in the Firearm Identification Unit. Warren said he has testified on cases similar to this all across the country, working on both sides of the aisle. Warren said he reviewed the examiner's work from the Indiana State Police report and read over the deposition, noting he couldn't think of anything that was missing. Warren also said he looked at photos under a microscope, which he noted, "Documentation is very important." Warren said using a microscope can shift the focus to see spots and layers of a bullet. Warren described the difference between cycled rounds and unfired rounds. Unfired rounds, case out of chamber. Cycled rounds, the ejection will clear the live round and would love marks, even though it was never fired. Warren explained that a fired round is much more explosive. Warren said the cartridge found at the scene was a cycled and unfired round.
And this is where I think their best, this is probably their best, in my opinion. And then maybe the expert for Polly Westcott. Again, we didn't really get a chance, but maybe when we will, when we catch up, some of the arguments I would say for Polly. Well, we'll talk about it in a minute. I don't want to get off track here.
According to Warren, the difference between a cycled round and a fired round is the difference in pressure and time. Both can be different, even if it came from the same gun. Warren noted that he has not seen any of the evidence in the case. Warren described 3 tools. Ejector, documented well, high potential for subclass. Extractor, no documentation, subclass marks are generally left. Barrel hood, even less research. Warren has never heard of being used as a tool. Until this case, the courtroom took a break at 11:09 a.m.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big gun person. I mean, I've seen, I've talked to people that are obviously much more versed in, this kind of stuff. And they're clearly, I mean, there is videos you can see on, how this, I've shown it. I've got videos. I mean, there is science to it. But they say when it's not fired, there's much more room for error, or I don't know if error is the right word, but interpretation, maybe be a better word. Obviously, when the gun is actually fired, it leaves striations. It leaves so much more identifying marks that, are much more accurate. Whereas just an ejected round, you do have the extractor and the ejector leaving marks, but I guess there's still room for, interpretation, I guess, on both sides.
Warren told the jury he was asked by Rosie to review conclusions made by Melissa.
And again, I know it's Rosie, it's AI.
Oberg, a former firearms analyst who examined the bullet found by Libby and Abby's bodies and Richard Allen's gun. He explained the process of reviewing Oberg's reports, including her deposition and photographs of the cartridge. He then explained what class, subclass, and individual characteristics are when they come to bullets.
Yeah.
Class is general, like the make of a car, Warren said. Subclass is in between, larger than individual. Individual would be fine details, like hair scratches. He mentioned that labs have been shut down over subclass and individual characteristics. Warren said he was shown a 5-minute video of Richard Allen's Sig Sauer, but couldn't find anything significant in the video. He then explained the difference between cycling and firing a bullet, and said firing a bullet would make stronger marks. According to Warren, it isn't appropriate to compare a fired cartridge to a cycled cartridge. Apples to apples is what Warren said he would expect, not apples to oranges. Warren confirmed to the jury that Oberg used a fired round to compare the cycled round to, which he said wasn't right as it isn't repeatable and reproducible. James Luttrell began his cross-examination, asking if Warren only looking at the report and photos and not physical evidence would impact his ability to draw conclusions. But Warren disagreed. He said Oberg didn't examine the actual extractor in the gun to determine if there were potential subclass characteristics. Rozzi then showed Warren a picture of triangular marks on the cartridge, which are ejector marks. He says those were hallmark of subclass characteristics. Luttrell objected.
So, of course, subclass characteristics way over my head. Oh, I'm not going to lie to you guys.
To Rozzi mentioning a lab that had been shut down over subclass characteristics, but Gull sustained. The two went back and forth on if most labs use CMS, which is an objective identification process. Warren said some labs do not, but he wouldn't classify it as most, but said he would have said there was an insufficient agreement in the cartridges.
So again, I don't know if that'll help or hurt them. I mean, obviously having a defense expert, to contest the bullet from Melissa Oberg, you can't blame him. Oh, let me kick up the. Yeah. Now, 1 second, guys. Let me switch this up. Slow this down. All right, so that was up to, I think, lunch. So obviously we'll get up to what's been going on since then. Oh, Mad Ninja, just be careful. Nightbot will time you out if you use all caps or any emoji, a bunch of emojis. Nightbot can be a pain in the butt sometimes. Even 2 emojis that timed him out? It's kind of wild. What the? Yeah, sometimes Nightbot, that's weird. Just 2 emojis? That's weird. Sorry, Ninja, you'll be back here in just a minute. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. You'd think, yeah. In the end, we like Nightbot. It does help us out. No worries, buddy. All right, let's see. What's been going on since then? Okay, I'm just looking at where we left, which I think was right here. Yeah, took a break at 11, right? So his testimony lasted nearly 2 hours. The juror asked Warren if removing or cleaning could change the markings on a bullet, which Warren said no, unless it was damaged. Warren said it's possible to have subclass for manufacturing tools. Warren also said he was aware of ISP's findings were verified and supported by another person. So remember that. That is true. I did forget about that. In Melissa Oberg's testimony, the bullet expert for the prosecution, she did say her work was independently and checked by another person, her superior, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in that. So this isn't just one person's findings. This is backed up by, a second person. 11:30, when court resumed, the trial asked Warren if a tool mark is a tool mark. I don't know if they just accidentally typed that back to back. He said, no, that's not correct. Asked Warren, is a tool mark? I don't know. They must have clearly typed something up. That's not right. He says, no, that's not correct. Warren said he didn't need the bullet or the gun when conducting his part. And he asked, would he have looked... if he had received the evidence, would he have looked at them under a microscope? Which Warren said yes. I would hope to God you'd say yes. I think you'd want to see the fine print. Let's see here. So somebody said it got heated at some point, that a jury lashed out. Okay, here, we got more. All right. Oh boy, let's see what happened. I heard a knock, but I don't think that was at my door. Not sure. Okay, so we went through. I'm just looking through here. Okay. Where did this one leave off? So this one left off with Luttrell. Obviously, if the prosecution cross-examining the witness, the bullet expert. I'm trying to see where this left off here. Okay, so there have been delays in getting the pull notes for the Delphi today. Okay. Defense attorney Brad Rosie is continuing to question Eric Warren. He has, does firearm manufacturers take into account the force of the slide? He responds, yes. It's a blueprint characteristic. Now, let me know in chat. Is that what he means by racking the gun? For anybody that's a bullet expert. Is there research on integrity over the slide over time? Warren responds, not specifically. Rosie asks, how would you describe the 6 hours quality? Warren says, generally perceived as high quality. The slide should maintain its integrity over time. I'm assuming this is the slide and the same thing you consider racking. Cross-examination. Okay, so we've listened to most of this. Okay, so this is an interesting question. He says, do you know how many years of experience Oberg had as firearms and a tool mark examiner? Are you suggesting to the jury that Oberg forgot about subclass or of the extractor or chamber? Warren says, I'm saying it is possible because there is no documentation. I make every effort to document to the best of my ability. Luttrell asks, Oberg noted 3 different tools making strengthened results, right? Warren responds, no. Warren agrees on the chamber hood in the report. So I think we did go over this. Yeah, conspiracy. Okay, there's the... Okay, so I'm just kind of comparing from this one to this one here. All right, then we go back to Rosie. So Rosie then redirects. Did I ask you to write a report? Warren says no. Rosie asks, did you make yourself available to the prosecution? They wanted to depose you. Warren said, yes, but it was a few weeks ago and I was in Morocco. 12:24, the jury began their questions of Warren. How would CMS or objective testing be used? Pull notes did not show an answer. Would removing, cleaning, disassembling change individual characteristics of the firearm? Warren says, no, only if there was some sort of damage. Did you know if the manufacturer keeps track of subclass? Warren says, no, they don't. Pull notes do not describe a question, but Warren says, my role here was to educate attorneys on what documentation was and see if it supported the concession. Would doing your own analysis have been more conclusive? Warren says, hard to say. As CMS criteria the gold standard. Pull notes don't indicate an answer. So clearly there must have been some very bad auditory where this guy was sitting. God, either he doesn't have the question or he doesn't have the answer. Did you look at the subclass marks of a cartridge? Pull notes don't show an answer. Just trying to read ahead here. What is the relevance of cartridges having similar subclass characteristics? Warren says depends on if it was from manufacturing or cycling. Are sequential serial numbers made in the same lot? Warren says generally accepted that close serial numbers have parts made at similar times, but may be in different lots. Are you aware that Oberg's conclusion was unfired by another expert? Warren says yes. Are you aware Allen's gun ejector was recessed and had similar markings to the markings made on the cartridge? Oh, we don't get an answer. That's an interesting question, though. Is it normal practice to not issue a report when consulting? Warren says yes. What are the chances that the cartridge at the scene matches the test bullets? Warren says higher likelihood of guns just in Indiana. What are the chances that the cartridge... Oh, okay. I think I understand what that's saying. All right. Okay, let me get to chat here. I'm just getting caught up here. All right, guys. Mitzi gifted a Mob Crew membership. Thank you, Mitzi, so much for the support. Oh, thank you so much, Curious. I missed you earlier. Contrarian. I missed your earlier one there. And Mitzi gifted 2 Mob Crew memberships. Bless you, Mitzi, and thank you for coming in and modding. Oh, thanks, TK. Let me check my stuff here. Oh, thank you so much, Peyton. Yeah, if by chance, it does help this channel out, but I don't beg for it or anything. But if you would like to support the channel, there are many ways to do so. And, of course, there's PayPal or Venmo. But, again, it's not... it does help, but it's not something that necessary. But if you do donate, like PayPal or Venmo, if you could let my mods know, because sometimes I don't get the updates because of my bedroom... my apartment, the roof is metal, so it doesn't always get the best connection. Let's see what's going on. So somebody earlier, when we first started, said that there was some kind of heat between a juror and the prosecution. Does anybody know if that's the case? Anybody hear anything about that? I am really curious. Okay, so... Oh, let's see what she's got. Oh, what do you got? What do you got? I'm surprised there isn't more people doing these lives there. These little lives. Let's see what she's got to say. Please don't swear.
Hour in the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen. We've heard from 3 witnesses this morning. The first, Betsy Blair. The defense called Blair to testify to the time she was on the trail on February 13th, 2017. They also asked her to identify a car that she says she saw at the CPS parking lot. That car was an older model car that was similar to one her father owned, she said. It was a sedan and was very boxy. Defense entered into an exhibit a photo that Blair drew of the outline of the car. Stacey Diener, on cross-examination, asked Blair if she remembered being told about an older model sedan that was on County Road 300 North the day that the girls went missing, and could that car be the one that she thinks she saw at CPS? And Blair said that she wasn't 100% sure, but it could have been.
I don't know if she's talking about. Remember, there's Brad Heath who saw some car uh, in the morning and afternoon, but it wasn't even at CPS. It was parked like off the road, away from CPS. Let me just go back to that one more.
She thinks she saw at CPS.
Wait, hold on, let me back this up.
That the girls went missing, and could that car be the one that she thinks she saw at CPS?
Sorry, let me go back a little bit more.
And to exhibit a photo that Blair drew of the outline of the car. Stacey Diener, on cross-examination, asked Blair if she remembered being told about an older model sedan that was on County Road 300 North the day that the girls went missing, and could that car be the one that she thinks she saw at CPS? And Blair said that she wasn't 100% sure, but it could have been. The next witness was a Dr. Stuart Gracian, and he is an expert in the field of psychiatry, specifically dealing with the
Oh shit.
isolation that Richard Allen endured when he was on suicide watch. He said that he is a graduate of Harvard Medical School. He also has a law degree, and he testified that according to the United Nations, that after 15 days of someone being in solitary confinement, that is considered torture. However, jails do not use that same classification, he said, as far as he knows, and that this is something that is subjective in nature. The last witness of the morning was a firearms expert called by the defense, Eric Warren. Warren owns his own forensic firearms examination lab in Tennessee. He testified that he looked at Melissa Oberg, the forensic firearms examiner from the Indiana State Police's report, and photos of the ballistics that she ran on Allen's gun. He said he doesn't believe that there is sufficient evidence to say that that cartridge did come from Allen's gun. There was at least 13 questions for him from the jury, and we're going to get into those more in our story this evening. We'll be back after the conclusion of today's hearing. This is Amy McCarty for the Carroll County Comment.
Okay. Oh God, don't give me no massage video. That's gonna be an inside joke. I was watching for those that don't know what I'm talking about. I was watching we were watching a clip on something, of course, a case, and obviously then the video will just just with Facebook, then it just goes to whatever, just kind of like YouTube. But after watching the video, I had the window still open. I went to another tab like this, so the video was still going because we were done watching it. And I guess a couple of videos had gone through or whatever, and then audio started going on. And of course, there's some weird sounds. And I click on the video. Of course, it's not porn, but it's a massage video, and it was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Go figure. Anyway, yeah, sorry to get off track. So anybody explain if a juror yells out, like, isn't that a no-no? Yeah, that's what I want to know, Touche. Like, if that did happen, like, what do they do? Like, I've never heard of like a juror speaking out. Obviously, I'm not, but my God. Obviously, I'm sure the defense people are going to love that. That's why I'm a little worried. I don't think they're just, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be found not guilty, but I feel like it's either going to be a hung juror because there's going to be a couple, just my opinion, my speculation, of course, or he'll be found guilty, but I don't see, if they proved that didn't even touch Richard. We don't even know. How much do we really even know about Richard Allen? I mean, they didn't even talk about him. in the opening. We have, they brought on family members where they could have kind of talked about Richard Allen and, what he was like. I think we've got like a few very little tidbits, but of course, most of the stuff I know is obviously because I've been following this case, and there's people that worked with him who have done interviews, and I can tell you they're not good interviews against Richard Allen. They said he was a creep, and he made women feel uncomfortable, and that there's multiple people that worked with him that have come forward and said that that he made them feel very uncomfortable and asked, inappropriate, he made inappropriate comments. Anyway, but yeah, what goes on with the juror? Yeah, what is going on with that? Oh, Chevy, come on now. Yeah, we know nothing. Right. I mean, you would think this would be the defense's opportunity to say, hey, look, this is Richard Allen, he's a father, he's a husband, he's not perfect, but, he's a hard worker, this and that. This is just a short little brief history of him growing up and da-da-da-da-da. And where he worked, and they're working. So that's what I'm smelling. Sorry, guys. They must be working on an apartment nearby, and they're doing something. And I'm getting like these weird smells because I think they're like either buffing or doing something. So anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted because I keep hearing noises. They must be fixing an apartment. Either sounds like below me. Anyway, sorry guys, it's getting a little loud. Anyway, that was kind of interesting. I wish there was more people that update. I'm sure there probably is, but I'm glad you can't hear it. Yeah, I was wondering if his wife was going to testify. Maybe she'll be last or something. It was rumored that she was going to testify, wasn't it yesterday or the day before? And then nothing. But again, thank you for everybody that's been in here. Usually, okay, so it's almost 2. Usually about 10-15 minutes from now, we'll start getting the next, because right now it's almost 4 p.m. there. And they either, it depends on kind of what witness or what they have. But obviously, if a witness is almost finishing testifying between like 4:30, before 5 o'clock, they may just end early unless there's another witness they know that can run through, quickly in a half hour or whatever. But it sounds like, yesterday it was kind of hinted at that, defense is just about done with their case. Which, my opinion, this is just my opinion, all the witnesses that were at the crime scene that day have no relevance at all, literally at all. We have, let's just kind of run through them real quick. Let's just recap the defense. Now, I will say they did have, I think some of the experts, probably, helped them. But I don't think a single witness for the defense, as far as that was at the crime scene, which I think is probably the most important. I mean, I don't know, maybe you feel differently, but I would
Teenage
think
girls, Abby Williams and Liberty
it's one thing
German, had made last minute.
See his deterioration in prison, but these murders happened long before he was put in there. And if he's the one that was responsible, again, I think, it's not about what happened in prison. It's what happened at the murders. And have they been able to, prove that, hey, this isn't Richard Allen? So let's go over the timeline as we know it. And I'll show you guys Betsy Blair for anybody who doesn't know where Betsy Blair was at. But let's just go over the timeline because it's been a while. But I'm going to go through the defense. So defense brought in an older woman, shame on me. I can't think of her last name. But one
This
that
is
was
4
there,
juvenile witnesses who arrived at the trails.
wish I would have had her name down. I can't think of it at the moment. Saw a man near her mailbox, one of the property owners nearby. She saw a man near her mailbox early that morning. Then they brought in Brad Heath, and he saw, and he's an elderly gentleman, and he saw a car that was not at the CPS building, but like kind of parked off the road. He claims it was in the two journalist reports said he was like 150 yards away. I don't doubt he probably saw a car, but it was there between the morning and afternoon. Okay. 2 people on the trail that day. Obviously, well, there's now more. We have Cheyenne, we have McCain, we had Shelby Hicks. So 3 people on the trail after the murders happened. They all get to the bridge a little after 3 p.m. Of course, the girls are, according to the prosecution, they're already dead. Libby's phone stops moving at 2:32. They said it took anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes for them to bleed out or something like that. So, obviously they brought those guys in to, kind of say, hey, did you hear anything on the bridge? But obviously they wouldn't because the girls would already be, dead. So none of them say, oh, hey, I saw this weird vehicle by the access road, because that's their new theory, is that the girls got abducted. Or anything else weird that would, or what about a witness? They didn't bring in a witness that said, oh, yeah, I saw Richard Allen at noon. I think that would be very,
Sometime before
apparently
me.
there's another group of 3 girls, not these 4 juveniles, but apparently, according to some of the defenders, claim that, there's another group of girls that were there that Allen ran into.
In that day, they would walk to the bridge, then
But
turn
there's
around
nobody
and begin to walk back.
Claiming to see
They
Allen
would run into
at
somebody who
his new
they believe
timeline.
could have been the suspect.
Yeah, I think they were high school sweethearts. Yeah, obviously we know more than the jury as far as Allen. I mean, that's not surprising.
This is the road the killer likely took just before parking at an abandoned building.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Known as
Anybody
the CPS
know?
building.
Here's the mayor's parking lot. Obviously, this is where Betsy Blair would park. But here is the CPS building, and again, now we know that there's no Mercury Comet. And I so
There is a
hope to
working
God
camera on this building here.
after this trial, we get the evidence, so people
According
can
to the
actually see
PCA,
it, actually hear his voice, actually hear his demeanor on these phone calls where he supposedly has delirium. Supposedly he got better, right? Because wouldn't he still be messed up, and he would be incompetent for trial, right? So how come there is no I'm innocent, these phone calls where he's
It shows a
claiming he's innocent.
black Ford Focus passing by at 1:27 p.m.
I mean, maybe
Allegedly,
there is.
this would be Richard Allen.
McCain. Yeah, McCain ran into Derek. Yeah, McCain ran into Derek. They mentioned that. Oh, yeah, the other witnesses. Yeah, Shelby.
From here, the killer parked his car in an unusual manner,
I'd
which
have
would
to
catch
kind
the
of.
attention of other witnesses.
pull their timeline, it could be just their may have been ahead of him. Remember, after he called for the girls, he went the other way, so he actually wouldn't even run into them. And if he's shouting for the girls in a different area, it's possible they just didn't hear him. I don't think that's a bad question, Firearm Fury. They tried to say, well, no, the witness said that there was some other girls trying to confuse the jury, but obviously we know who was there after. Maybe not everybody, but we know Cheyenne. I think Shelby Hicks and the boyfriend saw Cheyenne and whoever else, and that's who they were referring to. They did mention others, but obviously it's not Abby and Libby. But that's the CPS building. I'm sure most of you guys know that, but the car was backed in. Now we know. She says the same thing. And now we know it's not a Mercury Comet. It's a sedan. I think she says older sedan, maybe, but obviously if it's backed in, it may look different. Clearly each person, 2 out of the 3 thought it was some kind of hatchback vehicle. Purple, smart car, similar. And then now, again, it blows my mind that they would call Liggett a liar and make a big deal about this Mercury Comet, and we hear nothing about a comet. Why am I not surprised? It would. I think, yeah, it really would be. Voir dire. So the process to remove a juror is voir dire. Is that how it's pronounced? Voir dire. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I am gonna.
These 4 witnesses, which included 2 sisters, would pass. Somebody near the Freedom Bridge.
We should get an update in about 5 minutes here.
Coincidentally enough, Allen's original timeline he gave to Dan Doolin lines up almost perfectly for when the 4 witnesses and Allen would cross paths. Allen would even claim he ran into multiple females when arriving to the Freedom Bridge.
Okay, so wow. Whoa. These are some big implications. Holy shit. So if a juror goes out in a courtroom during trial, the judge can respond by giving a cautionary instruction. Don't do that again. Replacing the juror, which in my opinion, could happen. Declaring a mistrial, which I with the millions that they spent to get here, I think they would go with the first 2. Holding the juror in contempt, which, I wouldn't blame them on that either. Yeah, jurors are expected to behave in a way that ensures fair and impartial trial. This means they should not have contact with the parties involved in the case, talk with others about the case, obviously, allow outside information, anyway. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a no-no. I mean, I've never heard of that. I'm sure it's happened before, but, man, the fact that she can hold them in contempt, kick them out, replace them, the mistrial, that's scary. Oh, thank you so much, Jamie. The swear jar again. Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, It's either these girls get justice or they never get justice. And I don't know if some people fully understand that, because how much they had to spend to get here. Um, you know, it's now or never, in my opinion. Have you ever watched Night Court? I don't watch court shows. I was never, not, I wouldn't say I wasn't into them, but I never really watched. I maybe watched Judge Judy, but obviously you don't have jurors in that. So, I am surprised though. Let me know what you think in chat. I'm really surprised they didn't bring on the other witness, especially Riley's sister, the one who claims that the person she saw. So I want to show you guys something. Do I have it here? Yeah. So look at this. Okay, so this is Bitter Beat Poet. Some people know, the OGs would probably know who this is. This is a guy that I believe is local, and actually interviewed a lot of the people that were there that day. Not everybody, obviously, but I think especially the juvenile witnesses, or at least some of them. And if the people like the mom 5 years ago. Let me read this. One thing you can be confident about, height. Both witnesses walked within a few feet of this POS, cross paths. The girl said about her height, which was 5'6". The guy who was around 6 feet. And of course, he's responding to somebody that believes he's 6 feet. And so he says, come on, BG is short. And he says, law enforcement gave us no taller than 5'10". I seriously doubt he's even that tall. I doubt he's over 5'8". So remember, he interviewed, some of the witnesses there. And so, it's just a bummer they didn't get, these statements. But again, that's 5 years ago. Actually, that's probably longer than 5 years. But there's him even saying BG was short. And then, of course, one of the people, he interviewed one of the sisters, the Voorhees sister, and the mother, and she's talking about, she mentioned that he looked like Jimmy Duvall, which was, at that time, in 2017, an offender that... Oh, did I not have him in here? I might have edited it out. But of course he looked just like Richard Allen, which is just absolutely wild. But again, I mean, this is, another thing that defense people argue is that, well, nobody point to Richard Allen and said, this is Richard Allen. Well, I mean, if the guy looks like this, right? How are you supposed to honestly identify somebody if you see a guy that's walking, in a rush by you? How can you honestly ID somebody with this kind of clothing on, under oath? I don't think they'd be able to ID anybody officially, even if they had somebody else on trial for this, because Bridge Guy was layered up. Yeah, honestly, I've never heard of Night Court. I don't know what that is. Yeah, for them to be reliving it over and over. Okay, I think there might be some updates by now. It's usually about... I can't believe it's already been 2 hours. Holy shnikes. I would really love to know what's going on with that juror, though. What happened? Sorry, itch. All right, we're just refreshing the blogs here. See if there's an update. They should be coming in here. Oh. No, same. Let's check. Do they have a second thread going? Oh, they do. Wait, no, that's November 1st. No. November 5th. Press this. Alright, I read that earlier. Again, with the delirium thing, all he said is, I did it. In these phone calls, he says, I did it. You would think delirium, he would be like, I did it. I pushed these guys off the bridge, or I did it, and I was, and actually said something, about something, and it's, obviously delirium, but saying, I did it, honey. I don't know how you get delirium from that. Obviously, I haven't heard the phone calls, so I can't, but I just don't understand if there's no really substance to these phone calls, and everybody said he sounded calm, and his demeanor was, again, we can only go off what people had said about it, but these confessions to the mother and wife, where he's allegedly calm, unless he, but yet he's supposedly drugged up. You would think he would, they would mention, if he was, because they say Haldol, which obviously I have no experience with Haldol or Hadol or however you pronounce it, whatever that medication is. I would think your speech would be impaired, right? Unless I'm wrong. I mean, you would think there'd be something to indicate that he's under the influence of something. If you want to go the route that, when he's confessing to his wife and mother, that, there's something in his speech that's, affected, or, he can't put sentences together, or delirium. He's just something crazy, obviously a delirium, but again, I would love to be able to hear those phone calls. Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, especially when it comes to the sketches. I mean, it was no surprise the sketches were all over the place. Obviously, I don't think they should have ever introduced two sketches. That was, I think, a lot of law enforcement agreed that was a dumb idea. But, they were trying to maybe go a different route, and how can I type in? I don't use Facebook a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I got burned out on Facebook a decade ago. Is this from today? Oh, we got the people out there.
What's up, YouTube? I'm Anthony Greeno here in Delphi,
God.
Indiana, at the Carroll County Courthouse.
Oh, this is November
and I am with
Kristen DeMacy.
Okay. Sorry, I thought maybe this
And where are you
was
from?
today.
I'm from
Oh,
Greenwood,
God,
Indiana.
don't play 19 hours ago, November 1st, yesterday, 5 hours ago, Vinnie Paulton. Nothing there. Okay. Update this. We'll go till 2:30. Usually there's they've been back from lunch, and we got updates going on. I would think they got to be close to closing their case here.
Thanks for inviting us in. This is the Delphi debrief here on WTHR Plus.
That's from yesterday. Oh, here we go. Okay, we got more. All right, finally. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Okay, what do we got? All right. For rebuttal purposes. Ooh, the state says the next defense witness is a phone expert. They request that the two previous witnesses examine Libby's phone will be able to sit in the courtroom for rebuttal. Okay, so we're definitely getting into the end of this, I think, right? All right. Continued testimony. Oh, so I don't have much. They'll probably be filling it in. So the jury was back. Defense calls Stacey Eldridge. Eldridge is an expert in computer information management. Okay. Phone expert, and they request that two previous witnesses who examined Libby's phone will be able to sit in the courtroom for rebuttal purposes. Okay. Interesting. I would like to know if they actually have something. Episodically. Yeah, again, I have no idea what that is. No worries, Lucky. My sister had half ones, and she was a zombie. Interesting. So you would think they would know, they'd be able to hear like, oh yeah, this guy's like messed up on the phone. He can't even form sentences. Okay, so they're just barely adding things in. So it looks like they're typing it out right now as we speak. So the defense is bringing on a former computer expert. She's now a private detective. And she used these software we've heard a lot. It's used on phones, the Cellubrite, which they didn't spell that out right. Curious to know what she has to say.
Our #1 absorbing diaper. Only Rascals Premium Diapers have a unique Hydrolock core for up to 70% more absorbency.
Why? So I must be just kind of typing this out little by little. Go. I'm curious. I want to look at Twitter. I haven't even looked at Twitter. I'm really curious about what. I am dying to know what happened today. I mean, it sounds like with the juror speaking out. What is this? Oh. I don't know if I want to be showing that. I'm not going to show that. Courtroom attendee just reported that something was plugged into Libby's phone after it went offline. Oh, God. Bombshell! Oh, God, I can't wait to hear. Somebody was plugged into her phone. I can't wait. Am I going to be surprised if they exaggerated whatever it's being reported here? Sorry, guys. I keep refreshing. They usually will start updating this. Going back and forth here. Oh, Brinkmeister's in here. No jurors had an outburst. Okay. How about a poll for the juror? yeah, and I mean, hidden true crime. That is totally BS. We got conflicting reports. Yeah, I mean, you would think that okay, so this is one thing I would say that confirmed that would support Frank Meister is that neither of these blogs have mentioned that. So, and I think they would have mentioned, hey, during this question, a juror had spurted out. Would that not be surprised if that came from one of the defense people? And because again, the one thing that really kind of ticked me off is that, I listened to Murder Sheet, and I feel like they tried to be, even though, obviously they're, more pro prosecution, they still give credit where credit's due. When they say that the defense is doing well, they give credit to the defense. And I feel like listening to them each day, I feel like I'm getting at least a pretty good, accurate representation of what's going on and how they feel like the juries are responding. But then when I hear from, listen to the defense people, it's all negative against the prosecution. No, this guy did well here. It's been all negative. Defense is doing amazing. Again, I haven't listened to everybody on pro defense, but the ones I have, it's all negative against prosecution. And so why would I not be surprised if this came from, somebody that's pro defense is basically what I'm trying to say. But anyway, Cynthia, thank you, Chris, for all you do, justice. I appreciate it. And thanks, Frank Meister. Again, it's interesting. I haven't seen it reported in this. Maybe there's something that happened that's in between. Maybe there's, sorry, I just got something. I hate when. Okay, so thank you, Amy. You sent me a gift. Unfortunately, I can't open it at the moment, but thank you, Amy B. I don't want to say your full name. God bless you. Okay, let's try to refresh this. See if we can get anything. I'm dying to know what this expert's going to say about Libby's phone. I am dying to know. Bandana in the creek. Oh, I hate to. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. It sounds like they may have seen the, because that's one thing I did want to see is obviously not the actual crime scene photos, but the recreations, obviously, of the autopsies, the artwork, just showing the injuries, because I'm curious to see, what they are, because if a box cutter was used and it had parallel lines, it would be interesting. Man. Still got nothing here. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I know. I did mention her, so we should punish them. Or not punish them, but I did mention HTC. But if we can, try to stay on track. But I don't mind. I think she's kind of more swinging back towards prosecution. We'll have to see. Maybe there's something that's kind of in the middle. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they coughed or farted or something, and they thought it was an outburst. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed though. Like, we've got. Usually we have an update by now, because usually I'll finish my lives about 2:30, and they'll have like pretty much the second half, most of the second half of the day. But I'm not seeing that. And we got this just little paragraph. I would love to know what they got to say about Libby's cell phone. Anybody know in chat? I mean, I'm sure once people get home from the actual courtroom, they'll go live. That's why I kind of go live when I do, because by the time I get off, then the people that were there coming back and they, go live, like Tom Webster. I think he does a great job. Okay, it's on Lawrence Lunch Live. Okay. I'll have to look on it after. Yeah, maybe that's, that's probably what happened. Well, I mentioned that because apparently one of them had a coughing fit the other day. Okay, Yellow Jacket reports, hearing that Richard Allen's forensic data expert is changing everything right now. Oh, God. Dropping absolute bombs in Delphi. Okay, technically hearing that knowledge seed data indicates Libby's phone was plugged into something during the dead hours when it wasn't connected. That's a bold statement to say the phone was plugged in. So the killers abducted them. Is this what they're trying to say? The phone was plugged in. These killers abduct the girls. They take the phone, say, hey, since we're, I'm sorry, but we're going to kill you a little bit later. But, I notice you have a phone. Do you mind if I charge that for you? Sure. Oh, okay. Here. I actually have an Apple device, so I'll charge that for you. But I'm sorry, we are going to be taking you back where they're searching for you, and we're going to kill you, right? Oh, it hurts my head. Does that sound like logic to you? Obviously, the girls can't plug in their phone unless they're, abducted and then just free to, hey, you guys go hang out in the back room. Hey, I got charges back there for Apple. Yeah, I'm an Apple lover. I got you. I got you, sister. I'm sorry we kidnapped you. We're going to have to take you back, kill you. But, go ahead, check your phone, do what you think. Holy Christ. I'm sorry. I shouldn't use that word. Oh, my God. Plugged into a different device or charger. Jeez. These are really smart, intelligent Odinists that got away for so many years. Covered all their tracks, Covered all their tracks. Good Lord. All right, here we go. All right, I got to take a sip for this. Oh, my God. I should take a Tylenol. Oh, God. Yeah, she's getting paid $300 an hour. Oh, God. Okay, brace yourself, guys. I think I can read this with a straight face. Okay, jury's back in the courtroom at 152. Defense calls Stacey Eldridge. She is an expert in computer information management. She worked for the FBI for nearly 10 years as a forensic examiner and a later senior examiner. She also worked as an instructor on digital evidence. Eldridge, she left the FBI and is now a licensed private detective. Let me rephrase. Let me repeat that. She left the FBI and is now a licensed private detective. She tells the jury she used to have a license in Cellebrite. Let me repeat that one more time. She tells the jury she used to have a license in Cellebrite. Now, I'm certainly no expert in Cellebrite, never used it. But one thing I think we could all agree on, technology evolves, programs evolve, software evolves. And as you go on, that software becomes obsolete for a reason. I just wanted to point that out. I don't know how long she hasn't used that program, but anyway, I just want to point that out. The software used to Cellubrite is what is used. It's a program obviously well known for cell phones. She is now a consultant and adjunct at 2 universities. Sorry, my voice kind of crackled right there. Eldred tells the jury she has testified 3 times for the government. Oh, a lot of experience there. Owns a business called Silicon Prairie Cyber Services. Okay, well, at least she's into, still into the technology side of things. The defense is paying her $300 an hour. I mean, obviously, any expert's getting paid. I mean, that's not a surprise. She says she has worked 65 hours in examination for this case. She has worked 65 hours. Wow, that's a lot of money. For this case, and 15 hours prepping for testimony. Whew. Boy, she made some big bucks. Let's see what she has to say. Eldred says she's reviewed the October 2000 cell phone extraction, as well as the Cellubrite report, and the report from Chris Cecil. Cecil is the one that, the expert who used a bunch of different tools, Cellubrite, Axiom, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it, and other forensic tools examined Libby's phone. Eldred says she primarily used Axiom and used 2 others. She explains to the jury that every tool can do the work a little differently or display it differently. Yeah, usually each program has a specific, just like any tool has a certain purpose, but may be used to do multiple things. She tells the jury that an extraction is getting all data off the phone, so you examine it later. Eldred says everything she examined came from ISP. She says there are 3 level 6 extractions you can do. Each one of them pulls different amounts of info. Eldridge explains that logical extraction covers the basic user information, and that's what Libby's phone had in early 2017. Eldridge says ISP had the capacity in 2017 to do a full extraction of Libby's phone, but only did it in October of that year. Okay, so obviously there's got to be more, because okay, there's a little bit more now that I've refreshed. So clearly they're typing this out as I'm refreshing. Let me wait just a minute here. Refresh it one more time. Okay, here we go. Okay. She tells the jury this caused issues and caused the loss of specific piece of data called the current power log. She tells the jury that log only stays saved in between a phone She tells the jury that log only stays saved in between a phone being turned all the way on, off or on. All the way off or on. I'm not really even sure what that means. All the way off or on. So does that mean your phone's got to be 100% power, or it's all the way off? I don't know. Maybe there's more to this. Maybe this guy didn't. Whoever's writing this may have missed something that I don't know. Eldridge says that the log can also say if the phone went into airplane mode. She said her priority was figuring out what was going on with the phone at 4:34 a.m. So for anybody that doesn't know, the next day, 4 of the girls were found at 4:34 a.m. Her iPhone, Libby's iPhone, it had saved a little bit of power in the phone. So obviously the phone had gotten... First, the phone is in an area that has bad cell service, for one. So that's one thing that should just be pointed out in the very beginning. That's why, remember, there was reports that when they were trying to track her phone that day, before they found the bodies, that it was kind of pinging around town because there's only 2 towers that can't triangulate the phone. Anyway, when those iPhones get low on power, they kind of go in a power saving feature where it only uses its basic functions. It turns everything else off that's wasting power, you know. And so this phone stayed on for another 12 hours and died approximately at 4:35, 4:34. And just before it did that, it had one burst of energy, and it sent out a signal, and it received all the messages that it hadn't received that had been sent to her, and then the phone died. Right now, I'm waiting for more. I'm still waiting for... okay, we got more. Okay, here's more. Bombshell of a lie. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. Okay. Judge Gull calls for sidebar after the prosecution says they had not examined the exhibit showing Eldredge's report on Libby's phone database. First, they say they have not examined the exhibit. Then they say they have no objection. I'm not sure. Okay, Eldredge leaves the witness stand and goes to a screen showing the report. She explains many of the columns and rows. So obviously she's showing data that she pulled or something. The reporter describes the exhibit as similar to an Excel spreadsheet. Eldredge says she generally agrees with the state's expert examination of the timeline of Libby's phone, but there are things she does not agree with. She says she does not agree with some of the times, some of the texts, calls, and FaceTimes that were delivered between February 13th and 14th. Okay, I am dying to know. I'm so dying to know. Okay, here we go. We got more. Eldredge tells the jury there were times on the 13th and 14th that the phone was not connected to the cell tower. No shnikes. It was an area that had bad cell service. It is well known. She says the last time it connected on the 13th was at 5:45 p.m. and reconnected at 4:33. I think we all agree on that right there. I think no one argues that at all. She tells the jury she reviewed cell phone pings from AT&T. She shows AT&T historical precision location logs. State points out Eldredge does not have training on the network compatibility in Carroll County. Oh, God. I can't wait to hear what Murder Sheet says. I'm dying to know. Oh, is there? Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. That was from the other one. I'm sorry, guys, about that. I can't believe I couldn't hear that. Is that gone now? Yeah, I got it. We're good. Yeah, bad connection area and under a body and under a shoe. Right. A great point, Will. Exactly. Okay. Come on, give us more. Okay, is there more? No. I'm waiting. Why did I wait for this other one? We still haven't got to this point where it's allegedly plugged in. Oh my God. How? How is the phone? I'm just dying to know. Okay, these guys are just way behind. I'm sorry. Thank you, mods, for sticking it out for so long. I have to hear this before we finish up here. If we can. I don't know. Maybe. So far, I have not seen. They may have left this out. I mean, it doesn't. Yellow Jacket. Now, for those that know the defense people, then you probably know who Yellow Jacket is. Again, I have nothing personally against her. I just, if you really think this phone, after they were abducted, got plugged into something, I can't. I just can't. I just can't. Kat. Oh, did you send? Oh, thank you, Kat. Yeah, I got. Thank you, Kat. Sorry if I missed you, but thank you so much for your donations. Sorry, I'm just trying to hopefully get to this last little bit. I'm dying to see what she says. Oh, here it is. Okay. Wait. No, that's not it. Reconnected. I swear to God, if Yellow Jacket is taking this out of context right now, I'm gonna die. Clearly they're saying this phone is not connected to the cell tower between this time frame. Unless there's more. There's got to be more. I just got to know. This is killing me. Tentatively here in the Nod C. I just don't know. Wired headphones plugged into Libby's phone at 5:45. Oh, so now they're listening to music. You've got to be... You got to be kidding me. These people, man. These people. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh. Sorry we kidnapped you. We'll let you listen to music. God almighty. If they really think these girls were abducted and then somebody plugs headphones into them, sounds like the phone got messed up or something. At 5:45 and unplugged at 10:32. Wired headphones plugged into Libby's phone at 5:45. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, my head hurts. Yellow Jacket's a pro Allen, but she's, I don't want to say bad about, I don't. I hate to say bad things about people. She's pro Allen, pro defense, whatever. But anything obviously the defense says, it's complete truth. They would never lie, right? Because as the live show that I watched earlier, who's, a pro defensor, says, the defense is out to find out the truth. No, they're hired to protect Richard Allen and his, and, they're there for Richard Allen. They could give a shit. I mean, I want to say they can give a shit about the truth, but they're not paid to find the truth. They're paid to get their client off the charges that he's accused of. It's absolute BS to think that the defense are the heroes and they're out to find the truth. That is such a bag of baloney. They're not updating. That bugs me. I'm sorry, guys. And I don't want to go much longer. Oh, man. Yeah, you know what? Oh, that's so interesting. Or mud, actually. You know what? I'm so glad you mentioned that, Will, because I was literally going to say one of the times my phone, actually the head jack, was messed up because I had something snap off in it. And yeah, it thought it might have been a head jack. I'm not sure. But yeah, something was snapped off in it. And so, yeah, my phone, one of my older phones anyway, I couldn't put it to speaker or anything because I'd always thought a headphone jack was in it. Yeah, so dirt could have gotten into it. Not even blood. It could be dirt, as it's getting shoved down in there easily. Oh, yeah. No, it's fine. No, there's somebody working on the base. I appreciate that, Cat. No, there's somebody working below my basement. Below the apartment below me. That's what I was smelling. They're clearly, like doing drywall or something. And I was smelling, whatever that was. They're not updating, and I don't want to go much longer. Oh, I'm dying to know this. Gosh, man. Well, I think I'm going to end it there, guys. I'm sorry. I'm dying to know. People really think that these guys are abducted. They're listening to music, they're charging their phones for them. They really believe that, that's on them. If they can't even think like, man, does this make sense? Let's just think about it. Does this make sense? The phone gets plugged in. Now the wire, somebody's listening to the plugs the headphones in. So somebody's listening to music, Oh, man. I can't. All right, one last try. I am dying to know. Oh, wait. Oh. No. So I don't see anything in here, but obviously this is not her whole testimony. Something made that phone die. We just don't know what. Well, I mean, I would say that it just lost power. Usually, so iPhones are, when they get low on battery, and it's obviously she had a 6S, I think, but obviously I forget what you guys are up to now. I'm an Android person, but and they've got better over the years, but yeah, they were designed to save power. Once it gets down to low power. Clearly Libby's phone must have been, getting low on power before they were murdered. And then at some point, the phone really kind of just went into the power saving mode, where it's just literally saving the last little bit of power in the circuits for the Wi-Fi, and then it kind of stayed on. Well, not really stayed on, but then its last burst of energy, it was at 4:34 a.m. And as it sent out this last burst of energy, it got a signal. And that meantime, for those that have been out of area and got a bunch of text, and now you're back in a service with area with service, you get those text messages that you get like 3 or 4 of them, whatever, because you were out of in a dead zone, whatever. And it's the same thing. And then the phone, and then it tries to send out one last signal, because that's what it does. And that's how we used to help kind of look for this one kid, because the phone kind of similar. And yeah. Oh, wait. No. Got me excited. No, I still don't see anymore. So anyway. Yeah, my ears feeling much better. Oh yeah, I just got cold ear, ear and nose connected, so yeah, and I bet you with the wired thing, because I remember I had something snap off in mine, but dirt maybe getting in there, and blood, yeah, blood drying up, ear, iPhone headphones plug in the same port as the charger? Do they? I'm not an iPhone pro. I have the same phone. Do they? So then that would make sense. It's probably something that got like crud into it. Either way, they're claiming, wired headphones or it's being charged. Just think about it. If they're really saying that, after they were abducted, that because obviously, they would be abducted and they'd be tied up. So wouldn't they? That would have to be the killers. Like, hey, I'm gonna check out your playlist here. I'm gonna listen to it. Hey, I'm gonna charge your phone. I'm sorry, we'll be taking you back to kill you later, but I'll charge your phone for a while. And listen to some tunes. You want to listen to some tunes? What haven't they lied about? I'm sorry, my crime time. What haven't they lied about? Just go back to the Frank's Motion and all the checks that they wrote and they bounced. What haven't they lied about? My gosh. We could do a show on that alone. Here's a list, though. Here's just a list that just keeps growing. Yellow rope was used by police, not the killer. Bullet was found the same day. They said it was found days later. Let's see. Guns carried by law enforcement could have been 40 caliber. Now we found out they're 9mm Glocks. The hair. God. It just goes on. There was no F on the tree. It was upside down L. The recent one today, remember Betsy Blair saw the Mercury Comet, something her father owned, but yet the color on the stand, and she saw a 4-door sedan. Yeah, not bright. So certainly, muscle cars back in the day, they're typically bright colors. So yeah. Anyway, don't get me started. Anyway, I'm gonna finish out. I would love to know what the hell this lady's got to say. But I can't wait to hear about tonight, like what happened. But they should be about done, hopefully. I think no matter what, we should be towards the end. By the end of the week, we should be at closing. So, they've never asked any witness if he was one they saw either. Yeah. Oh, no horns. Oh, yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, you can pick apart the Frank's Motion, and I mean, just the first one. I gave up after the first one. Well, actually, I gave up on the second one, but the third and fourth one, I think they were just revisions of the first two. But last 5 minutes, I'll match any donations. Oh, thank you, June. Oh, that's very sweet of you. Oh, thank you, Sensei. No, you guys don't. More posted on Wish. Okay, here we go. I really want to read this blog. I want to know. Oh, there is. Okay. Oh, yeah, there is. Okay. Where did we finish off? Right here. Okay. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second, guys. She tells the jury she reviewed cell phone pings from AT&T. She shows AT&T historical precision location logs. The state objects, points out that Eldridge does not have training on the network compatibility in Carroll County. They say the log isn't complete and Eldridge is not qualified. Why does that not surprise me? Defense attorney Jennifer Ozay says the page admitted into evidence is one pertinent to the investigation, but there are several hundred more. Oh boy. Gold admits the exhibit over the state's objection. So again, for those that say that Judge Gold is only pro-prosecution and never does anything for the defense, I mean, I've seen her time and time again shut down the prosecution Especially, I mean, recently, I almost feel like she's almost pro-defense. I mean, she has allowed witnesses that the state's objecting to evidence. So, to me, I think it's a fair fight. Eldridge says Libby's phone was last connection time was February 4th, 4:33. And before that, last connection time was February 14th at 4:33. But before that, 5:45 on February 13th. Okay. I don't know why you just wouldn't say that the other way around. Make it less confusing. But she says the phone was not using data. It says date, but I'm pretty sure they misspelled that and said data. It's supposed to be data. Sorry, guys. I'm going to get to chat. God bless you guys for donations. Not necessary, but that's awesome. She says the phone was not using data in between those times. Okay. Cecil's report says there was messages coming through during that time frame. Eldridge says there's evidence that the phone did not have messages delivered in between those times. Right. Eldridge says that some of those messages did have timestamps in between the two times, but they weren't delivered. Right. Just like somebody sent you a text message, so it's got a timestamp, maybe in the log of when it was sent, but obviously when it's delivered, it'll say 4:34 or 4:33. Yet it might have been sent, obviously, the day before. Maybe that's what she's referring to. She says voicemails between the two times were not delivered until February 17th. Yeah, I'm not sure how voicemails work, but I'm sure there's some explanation for that. I'm still not seeing our big reveal here. Auger asks Eldridge to explain what a ping is. She says it's a technical way to have one device see another device is there. She says AT&T repeatedly tried to ping Libby's phone after 5:44, but not successful until 4:33 on February 14th. Still not seeing where this phone... Okay, there's more. Okay, more. Bless you, Kara, for the $10 super sticker. You're awesome. Leslie and Billy, thank you so much for the $1.49. DD, here you go, June. Thank you so much. Oh, God bless you and for everything you guys have done. Okay, there's more. I'm trying to multitask here. Eldridge says that she doesn't know why the phone did not ping in that time frame, even though it was under Abby's back and was stationary. She doesn't know why the phone did not ping in that time frame, even though it's got a bad service area, even though it was under Abby's back and was stationary. I think that would be self-explanatory, but I don't know. I'm not like a phone expert. She says, I can only conclude something external happened to the phone. Oh, God. So is she theorizing this? I can only conclude something external happened to the phone. That could have been it could have been moved, blocked by metal, or could have been blocked from the tower. Oh, God, no way. That's just what I'd said. Eldridge is asked about the phone's health data. She says she agrees about what Cecil found about the data on the steps. Remember, the phone stopped recording steps at 2:32. That's why we believe they were probably dead shortly after that or around that time. She says iPhones will not log steps if you are in a car or if the phone is powered off. Right. But the phone was never technically powered off. It was just basically in a state where it was in between those. Okay. All right. Oh, there's more. Okay, Eldridge says she knows that at 5:44 p.m. on February 13th to 10:32 p.m. that night, the phone had wired headphones plugged in. She demonstrates headphones being plugged into the iPhone. Let's look up the iPhone 6. I have it. I'm sure if you gave me like 5 minutes, I could find it. I have the same phone because I wanted to do experiments on it. So, this is the 6S. Does it got a separate jack for the headphones? God. Headphone jack. No, it's got separate. That's what I thought. Yeah. Well, that one has one, but that one. So wait. All these have headphone jacks. Wait, who said there was no headphone jack? I mean, I don't know why it's not showing one there unless it's on the side. I don't know why they're showing them like that. That's weird. Unless that's just a different side of the phone. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to this. She says it could have been an auxiliary cord for a car that was plugged into the phone. I cannot think of any explanation that does not involve humans. Oh, my Lord. Oh, God. This is wild. I mean, this is wild. So she really wants people to believe that these girls were abducted. And so they were abducted at 2:13. A couple of hours later, they plugged this phone in to headphone jack. Why? Why? And then they unplug it at 2:32. Holy. Boy. I'm just blown away. I am speechless. Looks easy to get debris into or moisture. Yeah, I'm sure iPhone, if we looked up iPhone jack problem, debris, let's see, if we looked at debris into headphone jack. I had a situation like it before, but not with the iPhone. Debris in iPhone jack. How do I get lint? Yeah, you can get lint, sand out of my phone. Yeah, blood. And it would think there's something in there if it would got in there. Yeah, I mean, I would love to research this. I don't want to keep going much longer because actually I got an important phone call that I've got to take care of. I can't wait. I mean, if you really think that happened, I mean, that's on you. But my goodness. I mean, for these Odinists to get away with it, and they just about do every stupid thing you could think of, you know, but still get away with it. It blows my mind. But yeah. I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, everybody's has got phones. I'm sure probably people have experienced in some way or form with the headphone jack. I know I think I snapped a headphone jack off in it. I'm trying to think of something else. But yeah, and that sucked because it would not, I could not speak to anybody at all. I could only do Bluetooth. That was the only thing I could ever, yeah. Oh, shoot. Yeah, there's my important important phone call right there. Oh, okay, guys, I am gonna finish up so I can call this person back. This is so let me get to everybody. God bless you guys so much. We will back tomorrow. June. Oh my gosh, June, you are amazing. Thank you so much for matching those. That's not necessary. Please thank June for all these donations. Thank you, Angela. Connie, God bless you. Kara, Jennifer, I see it in there. God bless you, Jennifer. Thank you. All the mods. You guys are legends. I'm sorry we went much longer than I was planning. Thank you, Criminal. Again, at the end of the day, justice for Abby and Libby. If it doesn't happen this year, will it ever happen? I don't know. So, God bless you guys. Thank you, Stephanie. I do got to go. I got an important phone call. Again, for those that are members, and I know some people email me pets, I will get up to that, and I will have a new update for the pet video. I'm not going to do one tonight because I've got to go, but I will update it. So I promise I'll get back to you guys.